A bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up.
Welcome, everybody. This is Team Rabbit Edition 287 with Talia, Soul, Exotic Thoughts, mentor, model, musician, Scorpio. Join the team as we get to know Talia, a free spirit coming to us from the jungles of Costa Rica. Originally from Israel, she has traveled the world and is showing people how to get back in tune with her magical set of tools and skills. Welcome and well met, Talia.
Thank you so much, you guys. What a pleasure is to be here with you.
Yeah, I mean, we tried before. I think we had some technical difficulties or something happened. We couldn't even agree in the green room exactly what happened. I forgot. But here we are. So something we do on the Team Rabbit Hole podcast is correspond this episode number, which is 287. So that becomes 8 plus 9, which is 17. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 is the strength card. And you do have a lot of Leo in your chart, actually, so it's not terribly surprising. I face my fears with the strength of love and patience. The strength card is about trusting yourself, letting your inner endurance shine, using your power to embrace the amazing person within. You do have everything within you to succeed. Raphael, what do you got?
So we have, one of my favorite cards. It is the Three of Wands. Power,
Threes are always a party.
magnetism, establishment of primal energy, creativity, project, achievement, valor. Astrological attributions are the Sun and Aries.
So, Talia, between that strength card and that Three of Wands card, is there anything that syncs up in your mind or resonates particularly?
Well, I would say that 8 was my number since I can remember. And I would say that definitely fear versus love, or fears towards love, back to love, into love. It's exactly part of my biggest medicine that I carry, one of many, but this is really the medicine that I had to go through in my life in order to break free.
That's what's up. Like I said, your chart, which I have here, I mean, you're a Scorpio sun. It might be conjunct my South Node. I forget. But your moon is in Leo. You got a Scorpio Mercury. Venus is in Scorpio. Gemini Mars. Jupiter in Leo. I mean, you got a lot of Leo energy. Saturn, Capricorn. I'm trying to think. Okay, a Libra rising. That doesn't surprise me. So I am aware of you, I think, and if I'm not totally mistaken, but I could be, so don't quote me on this. I think Samuel Barnes, whom we both know, has been on the podcast a few times, and I feel like I became aware of you through him somehow. Although I'm not certain about that. So I'm not exactly sure how I stumbled upon your magic in reality, but I have. So that's Raphael hasn't met you yet, so this is officially his saying hello. But we're basically strangers, so if you want, you can be as long-winded as you prefer or as short-winded. Tell us just about, where you grew up, your culture, individuating. When did you start kind of figuring out who you were, etc., etc.? The conch is yours.
Thank you. I love to just breathe into my heart for a moment so I can fully dive in and see what's coming out of all these treasures. Well, I could say that I was born in Israel, as you mentioned, and born and raised, really, first 20 years of my life. I was in Israel. Always loved the big world, always loved traveling, but also very much Israeli. And it's really a country that I love and appreciate in so many ways and so many levels. And yeah, as more as I started to investigate my story and where I actually came from and what was there on my way that kept me trapped. There was about, I think, in the early 20s, I started to feel, not even in the early 20s, I always felt a little bit trapped, to be honest. I feel like I always felt a little bit like this is not exactly the reality I was dreaming when I signed in to come down here to the planet Earth. Because Israel, it's pretty, as much as it's very beautiful and carries so much wisdom, um, it's also very intense.
I was gonna say intense.
So
Yeah.
it's very intense, very, very intense. And when you're there, sometimes when that's the only thing you don't even realize, because this is like, that's the only thing I know. So only when I really start to investigate and look backward around my 20s, when I did my more diving deep in my internal journey, I started to really look backward and even just questioning my mother, like, what was there when I was born? And what came up is that I was actually in the womb when there was a war going on in Israel, and there was so much stress in the air, and just bombing, a lot of bombing on Israel. So people would walk around with these black masks that are covering everything, so you can breathe. I don't know what's the name in English, but
Like a ski mask
um,
kind of thing.
probably
Yeah. Like a
not
bank
the
robber
corona mask.
masks.
That's another thing, that they made up. But and like just being in this situation of coming to the planet, and instead of feeling like, that's so fun, I can just relax into my existence here, welcome to Garden of Eden or whatever it is. I was really just getting into a lot of fear, consciousness, a lot of fear in the streets. And my mother obviously was also, being a pregnant woman, carrying a child while a war is going on. It's definitely not the best case scenario we all wish to ourselves. So yeah, and then as I was born, about 2 months old, there was a situation where I was actually for a few weeks in this like plastic box incubator in the shelter underground with all the neighbors, all the people of the building, and there is just all this balagan, we call it, all this mess going on out there.
Right. That's very I mean, I'm sure on your psyche and just you're absorbing this as reality and you're just probably just like, what the fuck? So, you're saying you until about your 20s you were kind of just doing the traditional, Jewish Israeli thing, bat mitzvah, and just like kind of going with the culture. I mean, you were basically fully a part of it. What was it, psychedelics, or was it you said you went deep diving, but like what particularly started making you question I don't even know if you question the religion per se, but obviously questioning your place in that society and that trajectory for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of the things that I can resonate the most with is that I'm a free spirit, and every day, in every breath, I do everything I can to liberate myself even more, and to relax more into who I truly am, and to not buy into the stories of the Matrix or what I've been, just programmed to believe and to think and to be part of. So being Jewish was always like a beautiful thing. Maybe felt honored to be part of this tribe, which I still feel beautifully connected with in many ways, but not in all ways. And I can say that from pretty young age at school, as a primary school, we learned Bible class. I never felt too attracted to it. That was like my only fail in the. It was like I didn't feel like what is this? It's like I didn't feel really connected to the God that they're talking about over there. I was like, who is this God that all day long just like getting mad and bringing punishments, and like it just didn't resonate with me, honestly. Like, and again, back then I couldn't speak it into these words, but with the years I started to just feeling less and less resonate with religions in general, which I do believe that each religion have a lot of wisdom and a lot of codes and a lot of parts of the puzzle, but it's definitely very distorted truth. or information, better say.
Right.
And with the time, I just started to disattach and disattach. And now I can practice a little bit of traditional events and holidays, and Shabbat, for example, but I won't be like,
It's not
you
exactly
know,
the traditional nature of the thing.
yeah,
You're doing your own
it's
spin
not
on
just
it.
the tradition.
Yeah.
Just to honor my
Yeah.
ancestors, really.
Yeah.
It's more about honoring my ancestors, I feel,
That makes sense.
and the beauty in it, that I choose what to tune into.
Yeah. It's tricky because a lot of people, I think in their individuation process tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if like, I mean, I was raised a Christian, so usually people would be like, oh my gosh, now I'm an atheist or something like that. And that might be an extreme. That's not so much a response. Usually that's a reaction, which is understandable. But usually, like you're saying, there's wisdom and value in almost any way of being at some level, or else it wouldn't be a model for apprehending reality. So it has merits to it, maybe not 100%, maybe not even 50%, but it works at a level, and then it takes real discernment and kind of wisdom ultimately, and willingness to try to find what resonates and leave the rest. But that can become really tricky when it's like a heritage, even in your case, like more blood, heritage thing, where the identity politic is so wrapped up in it that to break free might become an identity crisis almost, really. So I totally hear
Mhm.
what you're talking about. So what were some of the first thing? Okay, so you're starting to go, I don't know, Yahweh isn't, he's a little strict for me. He's a little Snape-ish, kind of sounding.
Cool.
So what was, what were you leaning towards at that point? Were you starting to be like, oh, Carl Jung, or like what was turning you on away from your traditional faith? I mean, not that it replaced
Mhm.
it, but what was the
Yeah.
attractor outside that you were kind of going, I'm missing X, and this has it? Was it?
That's an interesting question. I feel like the connection with nature
Mhm.
and with shamanism,
So go into
because
that
it
a little.
felt like there was, oh my God, there is all this like truth that I didn't even think about. I wasn't even taught. It's like I feel like almost, religion is. I love, there is like this meme online that you see, fishes in the little aquarium versus fishes in the ocean, and you can see like religion is the little aquarium,
Yeah.
and then the ocean is spirituality.
Yeah.
So I feel like really my connection with spirituality, which for me is one hand by hand with nature, is nature just in more dimension, right? It's in more dimensional experience fully. And shamanism really taught me that there is another way to really experience the great spirit, and there is another way to experience the earth. And really looking back at my life, when I was already zooming out of Israel, because at this point when I was okay, so when I was 18,
Hmm.
as I said, I didn't feel belong 100%, never. And when I was 18, not out of my free will, I mean, to some certain extent, yeah, but nobody really asked me if I want to, but I did join the army in Israel, and
Really?
I was a soldier
That's
for two
hardcore.
years.
Okay, so
So
tell
you
us a
can
little about.
imagine me
You're a
like
tough
holding a
cookie.
gun,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yay, like
So that's kind of a
this is
rite of
like,
passage for the culture at large. It seems in Israel, it's like, look, we got this turf, let's defend it kind of mentality. So what is
I just
the?
want to jump in and say, just
Okay.
Talia, as you already pointed out, if we see ultimately everything as one, um,
mhm,
and if we understand, the shamans even just a little bit, or the medicine just a tiny bit, it's all a game anyhow. But certainly, I
yeah,
would say, at least looking from the outside, every modern country has different degrees of let's say nationalistic or patriotic and identity-based politics. But of course, with the situation in the area, let's say, of Israel, it's a particularly tough nut to crack, I would say. I mean, I'm not saying maybe it's not much easier in Europe, it's maybe just different, but it's a big charge to dismantle, or to really be able to differentiate, understand, and be able to forgive, or whatever it is.
mhm,
Yeah, I mean,
And process.
it's
It's a
it's
tricky. Someone on the
yeah,
outside, I can't say
totally.
much to it particularly, but yeah. So I actually had some friends on the East Coast in Philadelphia who were Jewish, and they had gone back to Israel. I guess you get a free flight when you're 13 or something like that. Like it's like, come check out the
Oh,
land,
for birthright,
um,
yeah, for
something to
Jewish
that
who are,
effect. But then he
uh-huh.
stayed for the army. He served. So tell us a little about how that worked and felt. You
Yeah.
don't have to dwell on it for an hour, but it's like, yeah, tell us about how being
And also,
You can
just to be
fire a
clear,
gun.
everybody has to go to the army for 2 years or something, right?
Yeah,
Men
it's
and women.
compulsory,
Yeah,
everybody.
but men and
And
women, this is rare.
back in my
Right.
days, women would do 2 years and men would do 3 years. I think now it might have changed and it became a bit more even, but I'm not entirely sure because I honestly I just
You're in Costa
disconnected.
Rica. Yeah.
And yeah, so here is giving that little piece of information for people to understand. After the army, I felt so trapped. I felt so like that was like the point where I was like, okay, this is enough. You know, that moment where you're like, okay, no more. As soon as I'm getting off, as soon as I cut the card of saying that I'm a soldier, I'm like, arrivederci, you guys. And I just started travel the world, and I started from South America, and I ended up just going everywhere I could, and I desired to really. And I was just really following my heart, following my intuition. And I've been to all the most wonderful places I could, including like New Zealand and the East Asia and Africa and Europe and Scandinavia and South America and Central America, North America. I've been to everywhere I could. Of course, I'm still like, the world is so big. I can never get enough. There is always more for me to explore, and I'm excited.
You made up for
for
lost
what
time, it sounds like. You were in Israel for a hot minute, the pressure cooker, the military, and then once it popped, it's like
exactly. I was like,
check
you
it all
guys, I
out.
had enough of this slavery. Goodbye. I'm a free spirit. See you when I see you. And
Exodus
I
2.0.
had no idea I'm going to travel for 8 years, but that's how it turned
8
out to be.
years?
I was traveling the world for 8 years. I was a nomad. That's all what I cared about.
That's a long time. That's almost a
Yeah,
decade.
yeah. That's a cycle, it's more than a cycle. I rebirthed myself. I rebirthed myself with this life chapter. And at some point I was getting closer into my 30s, and I started to feel like, okay, where is home?
Mm-hmm.
What's this place that I would love to call home? What's this place that I could set some roots in, and in one of the days in the future raise a family? And as soon as I came up with this question, Great Spirits showed me my place, and I arrived to Costa Rica.
Pura vida.
And as soon as I landed, I was like, yes, I'm home.
Well, that's a very vindicating feeling, I'm sure. Before we jump to like being in Costa Rica more permanently, 8 years, what were some of the highlights? What were some places or memories that you aren't so keen on? I mean, not to dwell on your past too much, but I'm just kind of getting an idea of who you are. So it's like, okay, you've been to New Zealand. How'd that go? Egypt. Like, what were some of your favorite places? And they don't have to be cliche, or they can be, but I'm just kind of wondering, out of that grab bag of kind of world tour situation, what you were you going to like festivals the whole time, or like what was the modus operandi of you being part of that? Yeah.
So I really travel without any agenda, any particular desire besides just meeting the world and seeing what's up there, what's out there. It's like I felt like Israel was such a small pool that I can, swim in, and I see beautiful things. But at some point, it's like I want to grow, like I want to expand. It's become too small for me, and I want to see what else this world have to offer, and this life experience, which I always knew since day one. There is more for me in this lifetime. I'm not meant to just live that all day. Seeing people just working all day from the big, from
Dusk to dawn.
all day,
Yeah.
all day. And if you're not at work, they think about work, and just paying bills all day. This wasn't what I wanted for me. And I also didn't want more connection to the army, or even thinking further. I was like, my children will not going to go to the army.
Okay.
There,
Right.
I'm not going to let them go through this, because really the army for me was so heavy. I felt so unseen. I felt like really like my identity was almost taken away from me.
Well, that's kind of the point
And
of the
of course,
military,
the soul
right?
level, I
Yeah.
choose it, right? Say again?
That's like kind of the point. I mean, have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket? Or like if you haven't, that's okay. It's an interesting Stanley Kubrick film. But like they hammer your personality away to leave you as a core being that is functional for the system, which is
Exactly.
justifiable at a level. You want, like, you don't want just like Elton John's running around with a gun. Like, you want people to be like militarized. I mean, the point of a military is like to conform to a state like ideal. So that's not terribly surprising, but my God, it's got to be suffocating if you're, a flower that wants to blossom. It's not the best environment
Exactly.
for that.
I love that. Yeah, flowers wants to blossom. That's a very well said. Um, yeah. So when I started traveling, I was just really traveling without any specific interest beside just exploring, just the pure joy of exploring and meeting new cultures and new people and just different way of life and see what out there. I also was always attracted to animals, even though I was a bit afraid, but like I felt like, give me that wildlife. I want more wildness in my life. And I feel like, some of my journey was I needed to make money. So I was working in sales. And that's where actually
Selling what?
it's interesting. I was working in sales, and sometimes I would work in sales in different countries. So I improved my English, I improved my confidence. I was also very, very shy girl as I like first starting. Like
You
if
could
we
have
look at
fooled
the
me.
first years of my life, including teenager, I mean, I would say teenage life maybe was more, I was a little bit gaining more confidence, but it was always external. It was like what other people think about me. It wasn't a real like confidence, like this is who I am and I love myself. Like none of this was there actually. There was so much self-hatred and self-sabotaging. Um, and so when I became a sales trainer, I started to coach people. And what I figured is that I don't even care about selling. I care about coach people. That like it fueled me up, like to bring someone that have absolutely no like self-confidence or like believe in themselves and get them into like success and beyond. That was for me like, ooh, that's
Deep alchemy right
risky.
there. Yeah.
Say
I mean,
again?
it's alchemy. You're transmuting the person, or they are for themselves, but you're giving them an activation, if you want to put it that way. I mean, that's a weird way to put it,
That's
but
exactly
yeah.
what I love.
So I mean,
Yes.
I'm just curious. It was a random assortment of products, or were you like selling watches, or like what was the deal? Like
I mean,
timeshares?
well, Israelis, it started as like an Israeli company that sell abroad Dead Sea products.
Okay,
And
cool. So like, here's
like
mud from the Dead
honestly,
Sea, kind of thing.
honestly, it was not
It's just a
something I would
job.
ever do again, even if
Yeah,
I'm like zero, like
broke.
even at the poorest, like no,
Yeah,
this is like I switched to the light side of reality.
right.
But back then it taught me a lot. This work was really teaching me a lot, and I even throughout this work I managed to enjoy meeting many people and many cultures, and that was also very nourishing just to have beautiful connections with human beings. um, and so yeah, I mean today I'm not going to support definitely that sick products because I don't
You're
think we
not on
need
that wave
to
anymore.
take the treasures of Mother Earth. I feel like we had enough, and like let's give her back now. This is the time of giving her back.
Hmm. I just
So
noticed,
without any
actually.
judgment for whoever's doing it, say.
I just noticed you have a North Node in Aquarius. I have a Jupiter there. Raphael also has a North Node in Aquarius. Pluto, which is the death and transformation planet, has just entered Aquarius. It will be conjunct your North. You're going through a lot of transformation, and you do ayahuasca and stuff. So we'll get into that later. But it's like you're actually in a very pivotal window for your life now. So it's probably good to kind of, I mean, not dwell, but like journal and kind of remember where you came from, so you don't have to repeat it, kind of thing. All right. So you sold some Dead Sea stuffs. Um, what were some of the
Yeah,
continents or countries that stood out the most in your like experience? I mean, one place, it can be like traditional, like, oh, everyone should go to New York City, whatever. Or it can be like there's this crazy place in Kathmandu that you got to like. What are some of the places that you were like, this is what's up? I love this place.
okay. There are many
And there could be
places that I
many.
love.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like hard to choose when someone is asking me, okay, you traveled for 8 years, like what's your
you could talk
favorite
for 20
place?
minutes
You
on
know,
it
I'm
for all
like,
I care. Yeah.
I don't know how can I choose. It's like you ask me which one of my children is my favorite. It's like each one is so special in their own unique way, right?
Yeah.
Yet today I feel like I have a nice answer that I feel like very passionate about, and definitely Africa.
Hmm.
I feel like
Which
Africa
part?
as a continent
Okay, the
is
whole thing.
so it's so powerful in general, really as a continent. And if I can be more particular, then I would choose Ethiopia to be
Okay.
one of the most fascinated countries I ever traveled to. Um,
That's
and
more
I
the
just feel
safari
like
kind of
it's
vibes, right? Like Lion King vibes.
Lion King vibes. Yes. Oh,
Exactly.
totally. Yes.
I've never
So
been, so I'm
I
just
mean, yeah,
double
it's
checking.
so raw.
Mm.
It's
Go
so
ahead.
raw.
Okay? So was it like not to? Did you feel safe? Did you feel sketchy? Were animals like dangerous? Was it like don't sleep? I've heard of people being like, we gotta sleep. Don't sleep on the ground. The cheetahs will get you, or the whatever, the jaguars or whatever. Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah, I mean, depends where you are, right? Definitely.
right.
Yeah,
Did
there
you?
were moments that I was afraid from wild animals that might come and eat me or eat my food and then find me. But that was only in like it's more like really in a safari spaces and experiences where we went to sleep in the wild. Um, there was a little concern, I would say, but it wasn't even mine, honestly. Not as much to travel alone as a woman.
Well, you're
Um,
military trained, so you can probably handle anything that might have come up. I mean, you know how to kill essentially. So it's like I think you're not
I never
typically
killed.
a
I never
feminine.
killed any human.
Oh, that's
It
good.
wasn't
But I'm
even
just
on my.
saying, you know how, right? So if like a fight happens, I don't think you're gonna go, ah, save me. It's gonna be more like, all right, like military training kicks in. Go for the
Thank you
throat,
for
go for
saying
the
it that
balls.
way. I'm
Yeah.
not
Well,
sure.
yeah. But you are a
um,
Libra rising, so you're a peaceful plant eater. I get it. You wanna
yeah,
go along. So Ethiopia is a dope spot.
Ethiopia was
You said New
definitely
Zealand.
a
Like, what's
highlight.
up with that?
I felt like it was coming back to the roots of humanity. That's
Hmm,
how it truly felt like.
hmm.
And I was like, oh my goodness, like, what is this realm? Like, what is this reality? This is another planet. Like, people here are living completely another lifestyle, and they even have their own calendar. So
The
like
Ethiopians?
their year now in Ethiopia is like, I don't know if it's even 2000 and something.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just completely they have their own rules, you know what I mean? And I do believe that a lot of wisdom is coming from Africa, being high melanated people.
Hmm.
And I mean, slavery was just really what messed up with all the greatness of humanity as a breed, you know.
It was
Um,
a dark night of the soul for sure. Triangular trade routes and stuff. It gets tricky because I know on certain
dark
map
became
projections
white.
something happened. I'm curious about your melanin comment because I mean I'm pale. I don't care. I'm a white guy, but I'm actually I guess I'm a little sunburned today. But I'm curious about the wisdom you think that the melanin would hold. What do you mean by that? But also, a side note is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ethiopia is where Graham Hancock has a book about that, where he thinks that, there's people that think they have the Ark of the Covenant there, and it's like some of the earlier Christian people. Is that Ethiopia, or am I tripping on that?
I'm not sure about that,
Okay,
but
well, don't
Mother
hold me to it,
Lucy,
folks, but maybe.
which is the like the archaeological found of a human, you know,
Old hands.
the oldest human that ever been found was Lucy, and
Mm-hmm.
she is from Ethiopia.
Hmm.
So that's very interesting. And I mean, I definitely sense that without even knowing this piece of information actively. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, we all came from being back. If we look back at our evolution, um, I mean, from what I learned is that all of us really came from this darker skin color
Mm-hmm.
and as human race, and
Correct.
um, and yeah, and what happened
I
is
just
there
didn't
were
know how
so
you
much
tied that to wisdom.
influences.
Like sometimes people say long hair is more wise, so Rastafarians or whatever will have longer hair. And I just didn't know if there was like a magical connection. You thought like darker skin meant, and I'm not even really getting into race. I don't care. I was just curious.
Yeah, it's not about really
Uh,
like racism comments here, but yeah, I mean, what I am learning it a lot from my beloved Helios. He's doing a lot of research around that. He's just feel naturally so attracted to it. And what I received is that melanin is the ability of our skin to really be receptive of the sunlight and the sun codes.
mhm.
So obviously we know that the sun is the main source of energy for all life. And I mean,
Yes.
even when we eat plants, we're actually eating the sun that's, you know, touch the plant and fed the plant, and now we're eating. So, and then we eat the animals. It's like already a third
That's why I'm
round.
vegan. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Me neither, right? I'm vegan,
Yeah.
but yeah. So this, when someone have the ability to be more receptive and receive more of the light energy directly from the sun, is definitely effect on their who they are and their ability to and the consciousness, right? And their body and their ability to do almost anything really, because they're so energized. And what I also learned from Helios is that the, you know, high melanated people, or like black people, if you say, so their hair is actually growing upwards because it's growing towards the sun. So
Huh.
it's very interesting. It's
So an
actually, it's like
afro is
sunflower.
basically like a
It's like
chia pet, or kind of. I mean, that's a weird way to put it. I mean, I don't even have hair, so whatever. But okay, that's interesting. I guess I'd never thought about that.
Mhm.
Fascinating. So,
It
all right.
is.
So Ethiopia is a highlight. What? I mean, were there any others? We don't have to dwell on your travels long. I just thought you said, "Oh, I traveled for 8 years and then I came here." I was like, "Whoa, we can't just blow over that." I'm just kind of curious. That's a long time. So, were there any other places that you want to mention on a positive note? Were there places where you're like, "I can't ever go back there again. It was not what I expected." You know, like, "Oh my God, Japan is weird," or whatever.
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like today maybe just places that are deep into matrix, that will be hard for me. I
Mhm.
wasn't even aware of it until I actually came back into cities. I went traveling a few months ago after living in Costa Rica full on for 2.5 years without any breaks. um,
Where did you go?
I just felt, oh my God, this is so dense. Like, this is so dense for me, and my body is just not used to it anymore because I just recalibrated myself in any way. I live in this green, heavenly paradise land with all the most beautiful birds and wildlife around, and the trees and the rivers. And the wisdom is flowing in the rivers. This is like Akashic records in three-dimensional, like it's
Mhm.
all stored here in the plants, in the rocks, in the rivers, in the mountains. There's so much life here, so much wisdom. I feel like I'm just so receiving it all the time. I'm from my bedroom, I wake up 5:30, I see the most beautiful orange sunrise. It's like I'm so connected that suddenly to go back into city life and um, into just the matrix, really, all the patriarchy based um, world. Like,
Structuring and no, yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's going from like
it
the
just
Garden of
feels
Eden
so
into like the Tower of
unnatural.
Babel or whatever. It's a trip. But it's tricky because I mean, I guess one needs. I mean, this gets into presuppositions. It's like I don't know. Sometimes how would I put it? In defense of city dwellers and stuff, it's like life is still happening, magic can still be there, but there's definitely a vibration and a clarity of a natural rhythm that is not present in artificial environments. So like a Tokyo or something like that. As cool as that would be on acid, I think like I want to go to Tokyo on acid one day, right? That's like a goal. It's like, oh
Oh
my
my God,
gosh, what
yes.
the fuck is going
Let's go
here?
together.
I'm down, Team Rabbit Hole. Whatever, field trip. But I don't know if I could handle it. I mean, even sober, I don't know if I could handle it for a long period of time. And then you start getting into just, how perception, whatever. Like you're saying, we've evolved for a long time to be one with nature or at least involved with nature. The chaos and the structuring and the artificiality of language and advertising and design and noises and the layers of Wi-Fi and all the stuff. I mean, it adds up.
Yes,
So I'm sure you felt it. All
yes,
right, so cool. So you landed in Costa Rica a couple years ago. Um, Walk us through. I mean, you got off the plane. You're like, heck yeah, this is it. How did you start making your roots? And
yeah.
yeah, when did you start kicking into shamanic kind of awareness? I
Mhm.
mean, was that during the 8 years that you started dabbling with psychedelics more, or I'm trying to
It's
fill in
like
the gaps here.
psychedelics were always part of my path. I always liked psychedelics. I always felt like I'm so connected to this way more than this. It's like this reality feels way more real to me than this dream that someone has, co-created with me for me. Um, but mm, you were asking if my traveling flow was also a lot of festivals, and the answer is
Mhm.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was just loving the free life. Like wherever my soul felt freedom, that's where I went. And one of my first encounter with the indigenous cultures, um, one of them was in tribal gathering, which is a gathering festival that's gathering 60 tribes from all over the world in Panama for 3 weeks of powerful transmission and celebration. Um, that's in these kind of places and in the small tribes that I traveled to, that's where I found pieces of my soul. And I started to connect with shamans that so naturally and effortlessly just became my family. And it felt like I've been knowing them for forever. And this is not our first time meeting. So I knew at that point, I knew also I'm speaking fluent Spanish. So I knew that Latin America is my place.
Right.
And I started to feel like, okay, it could be Central America. There is something very like exotic about it. And it's a bit more lush than other parts.
Mm-hmm.
And something interesting, because as a nomad, a lot of people actually told me, don't go to Costa Rica. You have nothing to look for over there. It's so Americanized. Like, you can just skip it. Like, absolutely. You're just going to drink your money. You don't need to. Like, no
Well,
need.
I'm sure there's tourist traps, but you're not really in one, I don't think.
Exactly. So I wasn't like a regular tourist that's just looking for hotels or stuff like this. I was really just raw traveling, like, give me raw experiences, you know? So then I actually skipped it for a long cycles of me traveling this continent. I did skip Costa Rica. And I remember one day, oh, I wish I had it here. I remember one day I was actually, I think it was in Peru or in Argentina. I found on the floor this big coin, like huge coin. I was like, what is this huge coin? I've never seen such a big of a coin, like maybe double or triple than any other coin. And I looked at it and I flipped it and it says Costa Rica. And I was like, And I could sense like something there was calling me. There is a lot of abundance here. Abundance is the frequency here. It's like, you know, I mean, the abundance is really just growing on the earth. I mean, it's everywhere. Everywhere you look, you can find food. You can never be hungry. You can never really, really, really be poor here. You know, it's like Pachamama is just teaching you how abundant life is, and you just tune into that. And I feel like I managed to tune into that, and that feels wonderful. So that's one thing that kind of like sent me here subconsciously back many years ago. And I felt the curiosity to check out Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And then, there was one day that I found a beautiful soulmate of mine, and we had a beautiful connection for a little while. And he missed me so much after we met in Portugal when he said, hey, I'm in Costa Rica now. He was a facilitator for a course here that took place here in a community. And he told me, I just miss you so much. What do I need to do in order to get you here? Should I buy you a ticket? I was like, we can do that.
That won't hurt. Yeah, it's like,
I was like, we can do that.
Round score. Yeah.
So I was actually gifted a gift to come to Costa Rica when time was right. And as I said, as soon as I landed and I saw all the green, and I just saw the land was talking to me like, welcome home, welcoming me home. I was just, wow, mesmerized. And I knew this is home. And one of the most powerful moments were actually when I left Costa Rica and I continued my journey somewhere else. And I'm like in the airport about to go on the airplane. And I sit and then I look with my eyes up, and then I see this huge sign. It was like a picture of someone sitting, like laying on a hammock, drinking coconut with like a nice hat, you know, and then it says in big letters, Costa Rica, come back to stay.
A sign, not only just the coin, which manifested out of nowhere for some reason. Now you're getting literally advertisements from the higher up.
Yeah, this is written on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Quite
I was
literally.
like, okay.
All right, that's what's up.
Yeah, I just knew it's gonna happen.
So what year when was that? That was like a long time ago or more recently?
I feel like that was around 4 years ago. And then it took me time to kind of like
shift
integrated
gears.
this like soul call of me living the rest of my life, or who knows, right? But like living in Costa Rica, moving officially to Costa Rica, I was like, how am I going to say to my parents? My parents were always dreaming and like just like begging for me to stop traveling and come back home and settle down and have this degree and marry a good Israeli Jewish guy, you know. It's like
Right.
they had all these things kind of like figured out for me, which I never really resonated with. I never felt like my love. I didn't even think that my man, my
Partner.
divine union would be Israeli. For some reason, it was just like absolutely. There are some beautiful men in Israel. I just didn't feel like it's mine.
I hear you.
And that was also a kind of like me growing into speaking my truth and understanding my truth and then expressing it to my family, where I just felt like, okay, I felt a big call to communities of the new earth. I felt like people are not meant to live in these ways that I've been raised in anymore. And there is another way for us to live, and it's way more communal. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. We're not meant to take all these mortgage and sell our soul to the devil just to have a roof on top of our head and just survive in so much separation. So communities was something that I was experiencing throughout my journey. And I just felt like Costa Rica would be a place where I remember I told my parents, I like took a lot of courage to come to my parents and be like, hey, you guys, I know you always said, okay, Talia, travel now, but when you're done, right? You come to settle here, right? Right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then at some point I was like, so, hey, you guys, remember we said that I'm going to come back and like find a good Jewish guy to
Just
marry
kidding.
with. So,
Yeah. No, it sounds like you're following your highest excitement, you're following your joy, you're following your bliss, however you want to kind of put it. It seems like that doesn't always go according to our cult. I mean, how would I put this? Your parents love you, they want the best for you. Their idea of what's best for you, maybe not what's best for you. And then you've had to find that out. Individuating is a real process. Doesn't mean everybody has to go, live in the woods necessarily to do that. But I don't disagree that your path has clearly led you, whether it's synchronized, finding coins or seeing the writing on the wall, as you said, to even just being fluent in Spanish. I mean, that probably really helps the whole transition too.
Totally.
Yeah.
It just made me feel at home, and every person that I'm talking to is like, they feel like, where are you from? Like, are you from here? That's super fun.
I'm sure you're an exotic bird in their reality. They're like, what the fuck? This isn't a local, but she's local. What the hell? So I actually had the pleasure about a year ago for 2 or 3 months being in La Fortuna near
Ooh.
Arenal. So that was cool. I didn't do as I was tripping on mushrooms like once a week. But I didn't, how would I put it? I was just in a different headset and going through weird stuff with a ex-fiance at that time. So not like in the jungle checking out all the animals or going on hikes and stuff. I wish I had immersed myself a little more. I was kind of just doing a work stay thing and then kind of doing my own thing in spare time. So what valley are you near? Like what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Diamante Valley.
Okay.
Which is the area that is the closest, I would say the closest, most popular, well-known and touristic area would be Dominical. It's a beach town on the
I'm just trying to get my bearings. I'm not a fucking cartographer. I was just like, all right, so I was like central north. I was almost near Nicaragua, really.
Right, yeah, you were more in the north. We're more in the south.
Gotcha.
Yeah, next to the coast here.
Lovely. I didn't get to see the beaches. That's one thing. I mean, it's always something. I lived in Hawaii for a while. I didn't surf. I lived in Australia. I didn't surf. It's like, what the fuck? Next time, if I ever go back to Costa Rica, there's things I want to do. But the conditions were such that I just didn't do it right. All right. So walk us through a little.
It's a question of divine timing. I also want to surf so much. I started when I was 18, but then I quit it. I was like, okay, enough water with my sinuses. Maybe one day later. I feel like whenever someone starts surfing, they're just getting so addicted to it because it's like you make love with the ocean, you make love with the present moment, you just make love with life. And it's so blissful that I feel like in the moment that I will go back to surfing, I'm going to just give my all to it. I need to make sure I actually have the time and space for such a devotion. So maybe that's your case too. Who knows?
I hear that. I can hear that. I think part of my first memory growing up is almost drowning. I was like less than one, and I basically fell into a lake, and I couldn't push off the bottom, so I just kind of sat there. So I don't have a. I've lived in Hawaii. I've lived, whatever. I don't mind water, but I have. I think I respect the ocean enough to be like, if I'm not gonna fucking do this right, I don't want to do it. Really, like I don't want to die here. So, yeah. But surfing looks dope. I get that. Okay, so we're kind of caught up, but you've been in Costa Rica for 4 years or so. You've been doing workshops. You've been leading retreats. Kind of fill us in a little about how you got turned on to that more specific. I mean, what was the process? One day you were like, you know what, I'm going to do this, or did someone suggest you do it, or
Mhm.
like, yeah, how did you start tapping into your power?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I said, when I started to be a sales trainer, that's where I discovered my power and how much I actually have the ability and the natural talent to help someone to completely blossom and just light the fire into people, light the spark. Um, and when I came to Costa Rica, which was actually 3 years ago, it wasn't four. It took me like a
Mhm.
year to travel more places and then pack all my stuff and say goodbye to all my friends, to all my family, and really get on the plane again for this time for good. Um, so when I came here, actually one of my most beautiful teachers and allies and directors was ayahuasca. And just starting to sit with ayahuasca, starting to use that medicine for my own healing. That was, I had a lot of stuff to heal, honestly. I mean, just growing up into a reality that was into war and separation and all of that, I grew up with the belief that the world is not a safe place for me.
Mm.
So I was always trying to protect myself and fight, flight, freeze mode, so much in my life. And to have it as a default was really just my nervous system was, mm, I have so much
Shocked.
compassion to myself
Yeah.
and like,
Like, I mean, in a weird way, it's like these are the lessons we've asked for. You could get into this like kind of new age thought. It's like, oh, I couldn't have avoided it. Joseph has to get thrown into the well, or else he doesn't save his family. Whatever. Like you can justify is a strong word, but you can reason that it's necessary. But my
yeah,
God, we are, as Buddha would say, it's like there's a whole lot of suffering down here. In fact, it's all suffering in some weird way. And as long as we can kind of surf that properly, having compassion for oneself, like you're saying, ends up being kind of the final result, where it's just like, I don't know. I mean, your situation's gnarly, but it's like you start seeing yourself a little differently. You're like, not only are you, it's tricky because it's like a totem pole. Like we're all trees, and then we get carved by life, and then our totem poles are all very different, right? So it's like, oh, look at all the animals that my totem pole has, not yours. So they're different, but we're all being shaped by life, necessarily, and you can't get out of that. Like you can't avoid, even in avoiding the shaping, even if you just like build higher walls and don't participate with other cultures or whatever, that's still shaping you, maybe in a negative way. But it's always really interesting when I hear people who have been through a lot, but they've risen above it or through it, like a phoenix kind of thing. Okay, cool. You're still there. I was like, you're glitchy, but I don't know if you're still here. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just like, okay, so we have talked a little about in private. I had told you about a DMT trip I had. I don't need to go into here. People can check out many podcasts I've talked about it. Funny Egyptian deity stuffs, but it really made me question reality at a fundamental level. You were saying that ayahuasca was kind of a tool for your awakening. Kind of go into what that means for you. How do you handle it? Raphael's done it a few times, I imagine. I've never done it. I'm still fucking scared because of DMT. So at some point it's just gotta it's like cliff diving, right? It's like, yes, it's like you gotta just, yeah, exactly, you just gotta kind of run off the cliff and jump into the water at some point. So I'm sure one day I will do it, but yeah, what are your thoughts on the spirit vine and better or worse case situations to want to do it? Do you think people need to be called to it? Like, yeah, what's your whole philosophy with that medicine?
yeah. So getting into speaking about ayahuasca, I want to kind of weave it into how did I get there, so then I can answer your previous question properly.
Okay.
Um, I think that one of the things that I saw in my travelings is, first of all, the indigenous cultures. And I saw how these people are really living life that are way more healthier than I ever seen before. And slowly getting exposed into their plant medicine and also ayahuasca was a big part for me, where I felt like my soul is already it's already been shaman for like I don't know how many lifetimes before. And my connection with her in the first time that I met ayahuasca, it was it's like I wanted to make a big deal out of it. I was like, it's my first time. It has to be super special. It's like to make love for the first time. I was like, I had it to be. It has to be
The
perfect.
right
with the
music, the
person,
right
with the
flowers.
shaman,
Yeah, yeah.
in the right place.
It's a date. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it has to be super. Like yeah. Like and actually, that's how it was for me.
Okay, lucky you. Swept off her feet by the plant. It's like, hey, it worked out. You manifested it. Good job. I don't know if it's always so.
I am a really good director of my movie. I've got to say, like I
That's
am
what's
like,
up.
well done, Talia. Every morning I'm like, yes, you did it again. Yes.
I mean, you mentioned about parallel lifetimes, but would you say that also in this life you were preparing before you were engaging in it?
Oh, totally. Well, I
Yeah.
can say that again. I was interacting with different plant medicine throughout my life. Um, starting with like unconscious way of consuming them in like festivals or stuff. But really, they're all one family. They're all coming from Mother Earth. They're all coming, to awaken my consciousness and to open me up for what else is possible for me. Um, and then abuelita ayahuasca grandmother, she just like came and brought this like she just like brought the how would I say the signature, this like like this is who you are, welcome to your new life, now you understand. It's like she's showing me the behind the scene of the movie that I'm living in.
Hmm.
And it's not just like interacting and playing around and seeing visuals or patterns or sacred geometry or whatever. And it's not like feeling the earth alive and breathing, which I experienced so many times before as well. And it was blowing my mind. Ayahuasca really exposed me to so much wisdom and so many like truths that just broke down all the structure that the matrix was imposing on me. That's why for me, ayahuasca, I can't tell enough about how much I recommend about her for whoever feels the call in their own divine timing. And also don't take too long because we're evolving. Like, hey, let's take some courage. Let's,
Yeah. Don't wait
um,
forever.
don't wait forever. Yeah, like life is passing. You can be happy now. You don't have to wait until you have courage.
And maybe
Um,
just because we're on the topic, you mentioned, or Jim mentioned in a way, being fearful. And of course,
I'm afraid.
this
Jesus.
is of course a natural protection mechanism of the ego or even of a certain process. The higher self maybe wants to be in certain frequency bandwidth at different times. But maybe for anyone who, when they hear it, are also like, oh my God, they feel afraid, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that there is nothing to be afraid of.
Good, yeah.
I feel like aliens would say
Yes,
that. It's like we
yes,
come in
it's
peace
correct,
kind of
yeah.
thing. That just because an alien comes in peace doesn't mean it's not a weird event. I think the high weirdness of psychedelics makes it irksome to some. I mean, the whole fundamental point is not only are you going to see, I mean, who knows what's happening? Are you seeing dark matter? I mean, we don't know even what's going on ultimately with it, but it seems it shuts down so much of the modern human beings cognitive processes and presuppositions
Toxic.
that it right, well, we're so used to it. I
You
mean,
say
it's kind of
shut
like if you
down.
take
I want to say liberation,
right, well, it'd be like taking an inner city kid to like Costa Rica. It's like it's going to be a culture shock, and I imagine, though I'm not sure, because I've heard, I mean, whatever, you hear all sorts of stories, I guess. And this is me talking from the outside looking in. You're met with and this is what I tell people like my mom who hasn't tripped or people like that. I'm like, there's no such thing as a bad trip. You're just meeting your shadow or parts of yourself that you haven't recognized. And there's nothing that's going to be, how would I put it? You won't be unprepared for it. I don't, when you hear people freaking out and stuff, I think it's just them. They're so conditioned to avoid that part of themselves or these thoughts that they don't know what to do. Um, damn, I'm talking myself into doing ayahuasca. I just listened to myself. I was like, there's nothing to be. The water's fine. Jump on in. Yeah. Anyway, I'll
We're
shut
ready
up
for you
because
whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready, we're here.
that's true. I mean, honestly, that's part of it. I mean, having smoked DMT by myself and not having anybody to help me integrate that, it was such an alienating experience that on multiple levels that it was just weird. So I've always been like, hey, I mean, for a long time it was like I don't have the money, and now I have the money more, but it's more like it's got to make sense. You know, it's obviously, well, fad isn't quite the right word, but there's an industry, an ayahuasca industry now, and I don't want to just go to fucking Peru and just take a bottle from a guy in Iquitos just because it's, you know, like 7-Eleven or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, like there's got to be a better way and a worse way to do this, you know, kind of thing. So yes, people like you and how you're kind of facilitating this seems more in line with what I would hope to get out of it, even though having expectations might even be problematic. A more authentic journeying as opposed to like, hi, this is Pamela in Brooklyn, New York, and we're going to drink ayahuasca. It's like, I'm sure that's a way to do it, but I feel like the environment would actually matter, dare I say. So anyway, I'll shut up. Raphael, I didn't, if I cut you off, my bad. Maybe I didn't. I don't remember.
No, Talia, continue.
I'm good at cutting people off. I get excited and then I just talk. It's kind of silly.
You're awesome. I love you.
So yeah, we were talking about ayahuasca and shamanism and
I
how
can
you
keep
had
on going if you want me to.
Yeah.
Yeah? Unless Raphael, you want to say it.
Jim's gotta decide now, so please keep going. I'm joking,
Okay.
but just go on, yes.
Yeah, I can say that like my first introduction with ayahuasca, which I was already connected with shamanism. I would already felt like, oh, my soul just opened up the veil, and now I discover all the shamanism. That my soul just felt like this is me. This is me. I recognized myself for the first time. I felt so free, and even just the way I was feeling in my body, the embodiment of just being this like tribal wild woman that is very much anchored in reality. It's not like I completely, done with everything that is happening in the modern life, but I just felt like this is a reality for me. And sometimes I can play, I can play in other playgrounds, but as long as I remember that this is not who I truly am. So I can go and play there. I can put that mask and play like everybody else. And like, it also serves me whenever I have clients that are still on the other side of the bridge, and I am helping them to welcome themselves into from the world of illusion into truth. And which for me, it means a lot, harmonizing with nature and being one with nature and being in oneness consciousness, and also interacting with our spirits and really understanding that we're way more than this three-dimensional experience. There is way, 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 way more than we can even imagine and dream of. So I can say that when I was really preparing for ayahuasca, and I was wanting it to be so special, and it really ended up being so magnificent. I was traveling in Colombia, and I knew, you know what, I was not even in Colombia. I went especially to Colombia. I was in a place that's called Sierra Nevada, which is a very, very high vibrational place on the planet. Whoever is a little bit familiar, the Kogis, the Arhuacos, these are indigenous tribes that are really living without civilization. They don't have cars. They dress all white. This is not ready to ayahuasca, but that was the beginning.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the beginning of like how I got really introduced into these deeper places on the planet. That like it's only for people who actually looking, they can find it, but it's not obvious to everybody. Not like everybody can just know about it from whatever, I don't know where. So yeah, being there and witnessing their lifestyle, I was already amazed by the connection they have with nature. And they are not even an ayahuasca kind of tribe, but they are channeling from Mother Earth. They call themselves the guardians of the planet. And they call their area the heart of the world, el corazón del mundo. So they are the protectors. They are protecting, and they're all the time in communication with the spirit realms, which is unseen to our eyes, but it's very much seen for whoever is tapped in. And that was opening me up a lot. And then I knew, okay, I did there actually Yopo medicine. And then I was like, okay, ayahuasca, I'm ready for you, grandma. Take me.
Yopo?
Yopo is a medicine that's coming from, what's about Colombia? Not Nicaragua.
Venezuela?
Venezuela, yes. Coming from Venezuela and from the jungles, and it's growing on the trees, and it's coming from, it's kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it in English, honestly, but it's
okay.
It's something that you're taking it through your nose, actually, and it's literally
Is it like rape?
I would say that, you know,
is it
maybe physically it would look like rape,
okay.
but where it takes you, it just takes you in another dimension.
Okay, so it's more psychedelic.
It takes you to interact with the other side. Yeah,
just to be specific in terms of chemicals, isn't that also then like a DMT derivative with Yopo?
I'm gonna Google it. Yopo.
I believe it's DMT related as well, so it would be this similar or same energy as ayahuasca. But yeah.
In the Caribbean and South America.
Anything to ayahuasca, even though she's like about DMT, just expanded DMT, like stretch the DMT. You hear the monkeys?
I heard it. We've been christened by the howler. I hear it.
You hear?
Oh, dude! if I was tripping, I would freak. I don't know.
The monkeys.
I'd be like, whoa, we're being attacked.
And then you look at them, it's like a small little monkey.
They make a lot of noise. They're very like Western culture. It seems a lot of noise, not a big animal, really. It says it's basically Yopo is ayahuasca's obscure, powerful cousin. There's an article about it. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Again, it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's like a shot, you know, it's like take you completely like experiencing something. That's actually, I had a little there and not today.
Okay. Well, just a brief question about that. When you say dark entities and stuff, do you look at that as a part of your like the collective reflection of yourself? Like how are you integrating all this? Do you think it's like all one? How would I put it? Are we all in one mind and we're all, you know, it's all a projection? And there's no right answer. I'm just kind of curious. When you meet dark entities or light in, yeah. So were those aspects of yourself, do you think, or actual entities? Okay. Yeah.
Not just everything is in everything.
Anyway, Yopo. Well, kids, go Google it, do research. So that turned you on. That was like the businessman's trip equivalent of the ayahuasca thing. Similar, same, but different, kind of. So that was kind of maybe a lily pad towards doing ayahuasca with these people in Colombia. You were saying.
Cool. I met my soul sister, indigenous together, and women. And that was really beautiful. And I told her that I'm going to Costa Rica, I'm going to Colombia to do ayahuasca for the first time. And she was like, I'm coming. So we went together, and we even met another person on the way that became a beautiful brother, and he came with us too. And that was a really interesting journey because I wanted such a raw, authentic experience. I was like, I'm not going to go to a touristic, I don't know, center, which is beautiful too. Like I have so much respect to everybody who served this medicine in any way. But I wanted the most like raw, like root.
Yeah, not the 5-star resort. You wanted to go to the jungle.
Exactly. That was part of my like passion. Like, give me these jaguars, give me these snakes, you know. And yeah, I really, I told you, like, my soul is just writing the most beautiful movie for me, because I met this guy on the bus, and I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that my shaman is somewhere in Colombia. And he gave me this little piece of paper. He told me about this shaman that he went to deep in the jungle. He was like, he doesn't have a cell phone. You have to go there and knock the door. And if you're lucky, he's going to welcome you and serve you ayahuasca.
That's gnarly. That's a lot of trust. I mean, talk about psychedelic anyway. You're traveling, you're trusting. That's going to prepare your head for the right zone.
100%. Yeah. The way knows the way. Like, I don't need to even pretend like I know anything, right? So yeah, I mean, I took this little piece of paper. I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. Yes, thank you. And this piece of paper brought me all the way to traveling a lot in Colombia in order to get there. And once we are close to this area, I'm like checking my bag and I'm like, fuck, I can't find that piece of paper anywhere. What am I doing? After we did the whole journey. So of course, Great Spirit is always, bringing her magic. And I just had to follow my intuition. I went to this little market in a beach town or something, and I saw this guy selling some stuff that looked a little bit shamanic, like bead stuff, art. And I asked him, hey, do you know where can I find a shaman that is like
legit
from the tribes, like somebody that can welcome me into a really raw experience of ayahuasca? And he said, oh yeah, there is this abuelo. Abuelo is a grandfather.
Grandfather. Okay, yeah.
Grandfather.
Oh,
yeah. Abuela is a grandmother. That's ayahuasquita. And I was like, okay, amazing. I took his name. Again, the same story. It's actually in the same village, apparently, with the other shaman that I got his name before, where there is no much ways to get there. I need to rent a car, like somebody who will drive me there and get and just knock on the door, really. And so that's how it was. And we managed to go all the way into this place that, honestly, this is not a recommended place for people.
Right.
Especially not for women. Especially not for women, alone traveling, and extranjeras, like expats. And I didn't see any red lights. I was just like going for it. I know exactly where I'm going. What we discovered after is that 2 days after we actually have been there, somebody got murdered.
Yo.
Yeah, because there is a lot of cocaine stuff around.
Sure.
So it is an intense area, and yet there's so much ayahuasca going on there. And this is also an interesting thing, is like the light and the darkness, they're always dancing with each other in this like very interesting way that sometimes I'm really, I'm asking myself if the light can ever live alone, it's like in this reality, I'm doubt.
It's debatable. It seems to be a fundament of reality, right? Go ahead, Rafael.
It is what it is, right?
Only as you mentioned this, I mentioned this before with Jim. He's also always reading the Yogi Tea scripts,
I've got one.
He will get one for you later. But I've been to the Sikh temple in Española, New Mexico, where they have like spiritual community. No, in New Mexico, in Española, New Mexico. That's the location. And there they have like their community. They do all this Kundalini yoga and so on. But this community is also the one, I think, with the worst opiate addiction problem in the whole States or something like that. And then we also spoke about it. Like, could it be that where there's long shadows, there's also the
brightest light
big
makes
lights
the
at the same
shadow.
time, or whatever it is. It's interesting dynamics.
It's gnarly how that works.
So interesting, especially when you get into like innocent state of being. And then you're like, what is this?
Yeah, but then also and this is the miraculous thing, of course, then you can actually only experience that frequency bandwidth within which you're locked into, you're tuned into. You probably didn't see any gunfights or anything, I hope, but I assume now, right? So, but even anybody living in any city or anywhere, I mean, you never know what's happening 100 meters from you, what kind of dramas and so on, and you never know because everyone's in their own bubble, So
totally, yeah. It's all about what frequencies are you tuning into, definitely. And sometimes there are meetings, there are meetings, and that's where like action is coming, and I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. But I definitely see it less and less in my field since I decided to completely devote myself into the light. I'm not selling myself for anything. I'm not going to do any job that is not feeding my soul, but feeding someone's ego or pocket or whatever. Like, this is like, I'm done. So yeah, let's see. I was going to say that, yeah, Putumayo, yeah, this place in Colombia was pretty intense, and the light in the darkness interacting. And so when we arrived to this little village in the middle of nowhere, and we knocked on the door, we came so ready. We were just like, it was a whole journey just to meet Abuelita. And we knock on the door, and there is this older woman opening the door at us. And she's like, when I'm saying older woman, I mean like white hair. I mean like fully beautifully wrinkled, like really like
80 or 90 years old.
grandmother, grandmother, like, yeah, full on, like. And we're like, hey, we're here for, and she's like, oh yeah, that's my father. And we were like, what?
How is he still around? Yeah.
It's your father? I had tears in my eyes, like just from understanding where spirit sent me to. Apparently, he's one of the most oldest shamans in the world. Like, after that, I've seen him in a movie, documentaries about ayahuasca in a cinema, like, wow. Very powerful being that he was 106 years old when we went there. He's still alive.
Gnarly. What?
He's still alive.
I guess there's health benefits to doing ayahuasca, guys.
Exactly. Ha.
Yeah,
This is exactly
the fountain of life, first thing.
And this is a tribe, there's drinking ayahuasca since they are children.
Right.
They're born
That's
into
gnarly.
it. This is part of the culture. They're drinking ayahuasca on a, I don't know, weekly base or a few times a week. They just do ceremonies, they circle up, playing some music. This is their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And wow, this experience was just, for me, gold to my soul. And only later, when I was looking backward and reflecting on like, wow, that was my first ayahuasca experience. That's so special. How come I was chosen to, be part of this? Yeah. And then with the time, as I kept on sitting with ayahuasca in other places, she showed me that I am here to
facilitate,
not just interact with her, but I am in service to her. We are like, she's my beloved, my teacher. She's my friend. She's my medicine. She's so many things to me. And she really helped me to transform my life like nothing else. And, before I came to Costa Rica, that was, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, this story. Before I chose Costa Rica, before I chose to come and ground and start to make my own, legacy, my own business, like, what am I, not just selling stuff, not just being a nomad, but who is Talia Soul, and what did I came to bring to the world? Beside of collecting things and seeing and experiencing by interacting, but really, like, I collected so many things inside of me throughout my journeys, and I felt like this is my time to understand what is it. And that was the chapter of me before even coming to Costa Rica, but that was also when I was already in the spiritual path, which, by the way, started when I was still selling stuff. I was living in London for a little bit, very short terms, but I was living in London, doing some sales, and inside I felt like my soul, like, calling me home. It's like I felt like the beat of shamanic drum, like, you're not meant to be here, like, come home. I felt like in the darkness, in the moments that I was so-called far away from my soul purpose, I was actually discovering my true path that led me into my purpose. and into where I'm meant to go, um, as my, next level. And yeah, that was also interesting, how the light is coming from the darkness. The light is birthing from the darkness, which is beautiful.
A deep mystery. In the beginning, the spirit hovered over the waters and then let me the light, right? So it's like whatever's going on, I mean, it's a polarity, but it's a weird trip, and illumination, everything that we know comes out of the void at some level, it seems. So it's cool that you heard the clarion call. Not, I mean, I don't, sometimes I'm like overthinking it, so I'm like waiting for like a mental like psychic like burning bush or something, and I think it's more just like I've got to get over my fears and my projections and kind of just rock with it. I should probably trip on mushrooms a few more times before I really make a decision, but in any event, all right, so you've been in Costa. Did you finish that story? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was taking it somewhere. I was taking it
London.
into, yeah. So right, answering to a previous question, as I was starting to feel like my soul is here to like evolve to the next level, and I started to read a lot of messages and channeled messages and information, and being exposed to different teachers that gave me a lot of inspiration. I started
Like
to
what,
write.
for example?
That's where I started to write a lot on Facebook. That was like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I just wrote so many things that were just passing through me and allowing it to be written. Some of them, not all of them. Sometimes I was pretty shy, but I did expose a lot. And so I had a lot of people following and reading the wisdom that's come through me, and that was already connecting me deeper into my spiritual journey, when I realized that I am a wisdom carrier. I have something to bring to the world. And so I started to understand that I'm here to be of service, and I'm here to help people to transform and to heal, and myself as well. Of course, I did a lot of healing work, a lot of my throat chakra healing. I did a womb healing. I actually healed myself from 2 things that the conventional medicine world invited me to go on a surgery. One of them was even very urgent. You have to come back home and back to Israel and do this surgery before it's going to get into cancer, and you're going to blah, blah, blah. So I discovered, by walking in devotion to the wisdom of my heart that guiding me and my spirit, I managed to discover the power of my body to heal and the power of my soul to guide me, and to not be rushed by somebody else telling me, oh, you have to do this because you might get all this like fear-based,
Job's friends, right? Job's friends are like, dude, this whole shit. Yeah, no, people mean
thank you,
well usually.
ayahuasca, for letting me purge all of this into the bucket and be like, that's not
literally.
mine.
Yeah.
So that's where I really understood it. I'm also, as I said, I realized I'm a coach, and I looked at my chart, and I was like, it's so obvious. Spiritual
You mean
teacher,
your natal chart?
Spiritual teacher, a coach, like all of these things that I felt inside of me, but I was so insecure back then to even express to myself. Some of it was in this astrology, some of it was in the Mayan astrology.
What's your Mayan? I don't know it like by heart, but I know my whatever it's
so
called. What's your Mayan sign? Do you know?
My Mayan is Akaval.
I have no clue what that means.
Yeah, I mean, me neither.
Okay,
I haven't
here's the funny thing. There's
heart.
Mayan. There's like real authentic Mayan astrology, and then there's like dream spell or something like that, which is more what I'm aware of, which is like kind of like the new age trip on it. It's like, oh, I'm a red rhythmic serpent or a white world bridger, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're probably talking about the real thing.
What am I there? A yellow warrior something.
Spectral
No,
warrior,
but
like
yeah,
that,
I'm talking about the traditional one. I got it. I got a reading from a Mayan beautiful shaman.
Yeah.
And I'm guacamaya. You know guacamaya? Macau bird, the parrot.
Oh yeah. No, dude, that makes so much sense. You're a vibrant bird. Right? I get that. Yeah.
So that's me right here. This is my tail.
That's what's up.
In the by the Mayan, that's really my animal. That's who I am, kind of my essence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like just putting all the pieces together of stuff I learned, and like this is what I'm here to do. And then I started to feel so much purpose, and yeah, I started to learn different methods and like theta healing and shamanism. Shamanism is never ending, like learning, and coaching and NLP and just all the stuff
You're
that are
driving
related
by all
with
these big things. So theta, what do you mean by theta healing? And neuro
theta
linguistic
healing.
programming is what you mean by NLP. So words are magic and magic is power and all that kind of thing. So how are you working with those modalities? And Raphael, if you have any questions about this, obviously feel free to ask.
Mhm.
Yeah, so theta, like, are you talking about like, alpha, beta, delta, theta
Theta, yes,
frequencies? Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Theta healing is a modality that tune you into a theta brainwave state where your
Mhm.
brainwave is slower than the usual. And when you are opening a container of theta healing, you are, as a facilitator, you are connecting to the divine. And the person that is here the person who is here to get served, right?
Mhm.
They are just way more openly connected with their subconscious mind.
Makes
So
sense.
through a conversation and asking the right questions, we are able to just open up a lot of things that the subconscious mind perhaps wouldn't give so openly
Mhm.
without it. And then
So
with the
is that
power of
almost like a
creation,
lucid state, basically? I mean, are you getting them to, not a trance hypnagogia necessarily, but it's like you're saying that domain of frequency is l- loose enough and dreamlike enough where they're relaxed essentially into processing things that they wouldn't normally process. I've got to look more into that because that sounds. I mean, I love woo, I love magic, I love psychedelics, but it's like there's reasons for these things. It's not just like because we think there's practical
yeah,
reasonability and verifiability and all this kind of stuff. So
mhm,
that's why I'm asking. Anyway, so
yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, what I love about it is that it's actually a spiritual method that helped me to open my channel with the divine
Mm,
and to receive messages and to learn to trust them. And as more as I did that, I realized that my channel is trustworthy. And I got to just open up more and open up more and just learn more and more method. Basically, with theta healing, you're not like asleep or something. You
mm,
are here, you are talking. It's just that you are way more open.
chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something that I love because then you will never get into places that you're not ready to meet in your human experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we have all
Um,
sorts of natural psychological barriers that we've erected for self-defense for evolutionary reasons. I mean, it's like our body tries to protect us, but sometimes those protections we need to overcome them. I mean, it's there's archetypes here and stuff. It's like, of course, Sleeping Beauty has to be, I don't even need to get into the Disney archetypes, but the point is, we've got to go. I mean, Jordan Peterson, I've been listening to a lot of him more recently, and it's like the idea, whether people like him or not, personally, it's like you have to go for the gold that the dragon is like guarding. That's what the gold is. I mean, you got to face your fears, and it isn't always
yeah,
fun. You might even lose an arm. Who knows? But it's like we're designed to go for the treasure, the buried treasure, however you want to look at that.
yes,
And
yes.
and it seems whether it's ayahuasca or theta kind of frequencies, there are ways to get around the guard of our natural evolved mechanisms because our ego is designed. I mean, people are always like, lose your ego. It's like we have to have an ego to function. I mean, you
Mhm.
have to have a self like that, but there's there's ways. It's kind of like music. You can play on the beat, behind the beat, or forward. It's like we tend to lean forward into our egos very much so that it
Mhm.
turns into like being Gollum from Lord of the Rings or something. We're living for very particular thing, like
Mhm.
rings, in front of us. We just need to loosen our whole grip, trust the process. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, okay.
Totally,
I
totally.
cut people off too
Yeah,
much, I've been told.
you speak exactly what I'm about. As I said, facing our fears. I discovered since pretty young age that my fears are my teachers.
Mm,
Thanks to them, I become more myself. because whenever I'm like giving up and just like, oh, I'm afraid I'm not gonna do it, I just feel so like small and like it's just that it's a yucky feeling to be in such a to be like a slave of my
Disempowered.
fears in a way,
Yeah.
right? To let them control, like to let them manage my life, and same with traumas, right? So
Well,
yeah,
given
I'm
the
just
fact that you
learning.
have Venus, I don't know if it's conjunct. I'm trying to look. Your Venus, the way like the style in which you do things, the way you love things, is in Scorpio, and it's not conjunct exactly. Well, your Venus is conjunct your Sun, so it doesn't surprise me that you've got this like kind of luscious vibe, right? In a good sense. But your Scorpio is Mercury's in Scorpio as well, so it's like you really do actually like lifting up the rocks and like seeing all the bugs, and then getting over your fear of the bugs, or whatever. It's a trip.
I actually have an incredible example. So
Hmm.
as I was saying, since I was young, I discovered that I have so many fears, and I cannot just let them guide me, because I'm just gonna be like, life not gonna be worth living as much as I want it to be. And so I decided, I really made a game with myself, and I'm talking about like since like I was 12 years old or something. I Oh my God, we have a beautiful bird visiting for the
I
first
believe you.
time. It's a redneck. Ooh, beautiful one. Gracias. We're interacting with animals on a regular basis.
It's a great
Oh,
part of being in the jungle. It's like I'm on
this,
a nature
this
reserve,
life, I
basically.
love
Yeah.
you, Costa Rica. Yeah, I just really made a promise with myself. Every time I discover fear, it's like a green light. Like that's where you're going. It's like I have to make it into. It's like I transform it into love. If I was
Mhm.
afraid of cold water, and that's what happened to me recently, I went to do ice baths, and I just broke my record. I did only twice so far. One of them was in the retreat we were co-hosting here last week, and I did it one time. The goal was to do it 3 minutes, and then the
That's a long
second
time.
time, 3 minutes in ice
Yeah.
bath. That was like a
Yeah.
few months ago when I was in Corfu in Colibri Spirit Festival, which was amazing experience. First time for me getting into ice bath waters without any like anything that
Preparation.
protects
Yeah.
me,
Just
right?
just jump on in. Yeah.
Just
You're a
like
you're an
go,
Arctic trout now. Good luck or
And I'm
whatever.
telling you, 2 years ago, I was afraid, afraid of cold water. I was like, yeah, I would go to the rivers, but I was always like trying to like not put too much of my body in it, like just like trying to like, yeah. I felt the blockages in my body, which I didn't really want to have them there, but they were there and I couldn't deny it. And guess what I did last week? My second ever ice bath. I just told my co-creator, I told him, listen, I'm getting in and you make sure that I don't leave here until I pass the 3 minutes, because I want to break my records. Because I
Okay.
know I got this. If I did it once, of course I got this. And I entered and I was so in surrender to the cold. I was the most peaceful person you could see sitting on an ice bath. I was just like surrendering. And guess how long I was there? I was shocked. I asked them, what's going on?
7
Like, how
minutes.
long am I reading? 11
What?
minutes. And 11, you're like, what?
Yeah, that's almost 4 times as long. So clearly
Oh my
you mind over
goodness.
matter. You conquered that dragon. Do you think, I mean, this is a
Exactly.
weird question. What is, I mean, you are Sun in Leo, so it's like,
Sorry, I
light.
just have to bring this up because I
Yeah.
recently heard this. Apparently, Wim Hof, of course, is so famous about these ice baths. And
Yeah.
if this is correct, apparently he says this also releases something akin to DMT or something like that. So I just want to point out there's a correlation here as well. And he
Oh, so
even,
he's
I
been
think he even,
training.
yeah, but also I think he even explains it in a way that this kind of helps him to regulate his body in a way that this even works. So there may be a correlation here too.
Hmm.
So yeah. Mhm.
I just didn't know if you had like a reason
Nice.
in your mind for the fear of cold water. I mean, other than the fact that it's like uncomfortable, clearly, like no one wants to be in Titanic waters or whatever. Um, was Yeah, I just didn't know if there was like a specific psychological reason, if that made sense.
Yeah, it's just too long of a story, but yeah, there were a few more reasons why I was afraid of cold water. Um,
Word.
and for me, the main, it's like the way I felt after I realized I did 11:11. I was like, oh my goodness. I got this. I take my fear and I transform it, I alchemize it into love. Because I told myself as soon as I went into that ice bath, I love cold water. Cold water is so fun. I'm actually a mermaid that is so used to cold water.
An
And I'm
Arctic
just
mermaid.
coming back here to where I'm used to be, my natural state. And I was really tuning into this part that's already real inside of me, that that the cold water are safe and they're fun
So was
and I
that
mean,
neuro-linguistic programming in your mind? Like, were you reprogramming your
yeah,
language? I mean, that's what's going on. And
100%.
okay, so in your mind, because I mean, we've all heard like "fake it till you make it," and I think there's a power to that. That's the point of mantras,
Yeah, agree.
all this stuff. So, do you think I mean, this is a weird question. And there's no right or wrong. I'm just kind of curious about your opinion. Do you think that, obviously, how we speak to ourselves and the words we choose to speak have an impact?
Hmm.
Um, how would I say this? How much of a game should we be playing with ourselves or others with that, as an NLP kind of person? Am I supposed to just be always like saying there is no spoon, there is no spoon, or what are the limits to that kind of thinking?
Hmm.
Um, Maybe there's no answer. I don't ever know. I'm just kind of curious because basically you
Personally,
hijacked your psyche and you kind of just taught.
yeah,
It's like you're gonna jump, you're gonna make it, and you hyped yourself up for it, or you conned yourself. That's a weird way to put it. You convinced
100%.
yourself into
Yeah,
it. So I mean, that's magic. If I don't
that's
know,
magic.
abracadabra, right?
That's magic.
Yeah.
Abracadabra. 100%. I mean, I I feel like I reprogrammed myself in so many aspects of my life. Otherwise, I couldn't even be here right now.
Hmm.
You know, just living in Israel in one, if you would see like the city I was born into, it's just like far away. I don't know how, like so far away from where I'm at today is, and and today I see what an inspiration I give to people that also want to break free.
Mm.
And I see that a lot of it was thanks to the fact, first of all, I was very curious person all the time, and I had this passion to meet my true self. And also, in order for me to really go there, I had to deprogram, which
Mm.
I do it on a regular basis with ayahuasca. And also, not only with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is one tool, but I do it before even I met ayahuasca, right? I mean, I, I understand. It's like I see this pattern of thought or limiting belief, and I don't identify with it as this being the truth. And
Mm.
once I took away the power from it, because I said, this is not the truth anymore, probably never been, who knows? But I take away the power that I gave it in the past, where I created a story that cold water is dangerous for me, for example. And in that moment, I deprogram and I reprogram by, hey, I'm going to stick to the fact. The fact is, so many people have done this before me. Of course, I know how to do it. Of course, it's okay. Of course, it's safe. You know, and I and then I tap into my magical multidimensionality, where
Mm.
I'm like, hey, I am a mermaid. I know I'm a mermaid. This is not even a question. Like you see me in the ocean, I besides the fact that I actually have a mermaid tail, but I am a mermaid. Like I go into the ocean and like if you are really seeing with the right eyes, you probably would see a mermaid. So just knowing that I'm coming from these magical realities where I believe, I mean, fairies are my friends, like interacting with animals. I was caressing a frog
Oh
a few
yeah.
weeks ago. Like I spoke to her. I really
Now you're
spoke to her.
buddies.
She was so
Yeah.
afraid. We interacted for like half an hour, and then I reached to this place where I was like, "Hey, that's a frog, actually. Listen to this." So
That's a
I was
frog.
like, "But I'm talking about a real frog, obviously."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I told her, is that okay for me to caress you? If that's a yes, then show me. If that's a no, then show me. And she just let me to caress her. And so for me, this is reality. And cold water is that's the temperature that is running in the rivers and the ocean. So of course it's natural for me. I'm the daughter of the land. I am Mother Earth embodied in this unique human experience, right? So yeah, it's just reprogramming myself with reality, like understanding that there was so much lies that have been brought to us and to me in the past, and going into school that was completely, destroying so much of my nature, and try to get me into this like zombie, like someone's employee, or like
Like Agent
someone's
Smith
slave.
of the Matrix. That's kind of how it works. I
Yes.
mean, it's tricky. It's like we should essentially have a love-hate relationship with culture because, as Terrence McKenna would say or something, culture is not your friend. It's there to like use you. You're a pawn in the game, and that's real. But then we can start waking up to our superpowers is maybe a strong word, but it's like our individual essences and playing the game differently, and that's a choice. I mean, really. And I'm still struggling with like in the biblical kind of sense, there's goats and there's sheep kind of thing. Like some people just never want to do this,
Hmm.
and how do I respect somebody who's on a war path and just wants to fight? It's tricky. We've talked about this before on the podcast where when COVID was really popping and stuff, and what like Bill Gates and stuff, like all this craziness was happening, and I was kind of coming to a place. I mean, Raphael knows, where it's like I was kind of referencing, I think, something he had read from Manly B. Hall, who's a Freemason, but basically the idea that's like, look, we look at things that challenge us and that aren't like the dark and like Satan, basically like that, like the stuff that deceives us and like triggers us. But if we were to see it from a higher perspective, it's the thing that's actually evolving us, kind of like confronting your fears did. I'm rambling. The point is, it I guess it's a Buddhist compassion ultimately, but I'm not like there. But it's like, man, everybody's exactly where between what they would prefer to be happening. And Raphael, maybe you could say this in a more eloquent Basharian way or something. But it seems like the preference with where somebody actually is. So, how would I put this? You like if somebody's spiritually kind of at like elementary school, they're probably not going to be dealing with college level issues.
Right.
The universe doesn't
Yeah.
just present it for them, and then you kind of just mature slowly through both participation and willingness. And because it is a free will, I mean, I don't. This is a presupposition. It seems to be a lot of openness to the system where we get to play with what we. I mean, Raphael, you would probably say permission slips, but it's like what we permit happened. We're in the kitchen. Period. We're all in the kitchen, and it's like, do you want spicy food or not spicy food? And then we kind of go subconsciously through that, and you might end up eating ghost peppers all day and be like, holy shit, but like you asked for it kind of thing. It's a weird way to put it. I just
Yeah.
said so much
Yeah.
random bullshit that made no sense. I couldn't tie it all together. That's why I'm like, Raphael, help me. I know he knows what I'm trying to say, but I can't articulate it, where it's like even the things that we think are the worst are there for our benefit ultimately in some weird way. And we just have to like play the game. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Aho.
Well, I'm sure Talia knows what you're saying, so you're good, Jim. Even if
All
you're
right.
going around about, it's fine.
Okay, so but that's like the idea of permission slips, right? I mean, essentially.
100%. 100%. Yes.
Well,
And I don't know, I felt my connection with Mother Earth as I heard you speaking, because Mother Earth is suffering a lot from the way humanity is behaving
yeah, we're really ignorant a lot of the time. It's
to each
unfortunate.
other, to the animals, to the plants, to the rivers, to the air, to the sky, to the fire, and yeah, I just feel like this is exactly what keeps me as somebody who is in devotion to Mother Earth. I'm here to serve Mother Earth. I'm here to speak her voice. And that's one of the things that ayahuasca is doing as well. She's speaking her voice many times, even though she's her own spirit. She carried that wisdom. And I feel like the fact that I understand so well how much everything is just in order to serve me, even the toughest moments, is I see it as a collective, like what's going on right now in the world. Like if people are not going to wake up yesterday,
Maybe
we
today
are,
we'll just keep turning
I
up the
don't know where
temperature.
our children, you know what, I'm not going to include myself. I don't
Right.
know where their children in humanity will be able to thrive and to grow. What kind of earth are we going to leave to the next generations? And this is something that I'm actually like, this is my anchor, the idea, the knowing that everything that happens is for my growth, it's for my highest good, even if it doesn't look like it. In some level, I ask for it so I can overcome something, whatever obstacle, and I can grow and I can expand. And that's where I see miracles. And that's why I so believe in miracles. I mean, I live miracles daily. I so believe in miracles that for me, what's going on in the planet right now it has a solution. And even if we didn't wake up in time so far, I know and I trust that everything here that's happening is for our highest growth and our highest good, for people to wake up whenever it's their divine timing to wake up. I'm not here to tell someone when it's their time. Their soul is here to choose, and I'm in full respect and allowance to that. And yet I'm doing my best to express these content, these wisdom, these sharings and exchange that will hopefully praying for activating whatever it is need to be activated in order for people to wake up and love the planet, give their love to the planet. I feel like the planet is, Mother Earth is the embodiment of spirit in matter in many ways, such as all of us. And yet she is the big body that we are all living on. We are like cells of one body, and she's just the way she, yeah, we're having a ceremony here later on tonight. So I think that's there's some preparation going around me. But what I'm saying is that I feel like being part of her, having her body feeling so like in craving for healing, in craving for love, it's exactly showing us the pure reflection of what we're doing to ourselves as human, as microcosmos, as like, how do I take care of my body? How much do I love my body? How much do I speak to my cells? How much do I, create my reality that is actually benefiting me, and understanding the power that I have to change this reality as I wish in every moment. So I feel like as part of the awakening is taking place, we're here to take back our power and start to understand, okay, universe is like life experience is here to give me some challenges so I can overcome them and become this powerful being with my highest potential. And yet, if we're not going to harness that power and navigate it into what truly matters, we're not going to survive. It's like, so I believe that we will, and I believe that we are, and I believe in the love that is awakening in our hearts. I believe in the wisdom that is in being stored and carried in our hearts. And I believe that every person in every situation in our life have a key to give us to access and unlock more of that wisdom. And one of the things that I love to say to people that are, coming to me is that the environment you choose to place yourself is so, so, so extremely important, because this is it's like you create your reality. And if I'm every day waking up in the middle of whatever the little city I was born to, then that's how my life will look like. Even if I can be online and like talk to all of these, like I can speak to angels, I can speak to whatever serious, but even in the end of the day, I'm going to sleep in this little bed, in this little apartment, in this paying my mortgage, going to work, it's like this lifestyle is not truly feeding my soul, and maybe some people in this lifetime are meant to have a lifestyle that is closer to what I just expressed. And I have full respect for that.
Clearly. Yeah. So that's the school they're in, kind of thing.
And everybody are exactly where they need to be in every present moment.
It's like a movie where you're in school or something, and there's your friends are at the door, and they're like, "Come on, there's something outside of the classroom. This classroom's fine," and they're all taking their test, and it has a consequence, but you can not skip class, but it's like there's other classrooms. Like it's an ever expanding classroom. The thought that came to my mind, maybe because you said mermaid so many times, though, the Little Mermaid, the Disney film, the original cartoon,
Ariel.
Um,
A little
Ariel, yeah.
baby.
She, I mean, she's kind of talking what you're talking about. I mean, she was privileged, right? She was King Trident's daughter and had a great time and some friends, Flounder and Sebastian the Crab. But she had this deep seated dream that she couldn't probably express readily to other mermaids or mermen. I want to walk, I want to run, I want to feel the sun. Like she wanted to be a part of a different world, right? Some other world, or I forget all the lyrics, but you know the point. And that's kind of the thing. It's an onioning, and it's like not everybody. It's a weird kind of bodhisattva thought, I guess, but it's like not everyone's going to hear the alarm clock at the same time. But like Ram Dass would say, we're kind of all walking each other home. So
Yeah.
hopefully we just get more involved with the class that we are meant to be participating with at the highest levels. Kind of what you're saying. It's just like, we can slack and we can sit at the back of the class and just doodle and make jokes, or we could take it seriously, pay attention, and try to actually graduate, dare I say. So it seems like that's what you've been a part of. We could start winding down if people are, starting to get ready around you, if you got to get going soon.
No, it's okay. Everybody are cool.
Okay, well, word, yeah. I guess
I
parents
have
and
the
ayahuasca
exact
will
right
make
to be
people
here.
cool. So I'm curious. You've said a lot beautifully about your life and explained yourself well. And considering English isn't probably your first language, like you speak Spanish fluently and Hebrew, I'm imagining Israeli. I guess it's
Agree.
Hebrew. Yeah, fluently. You're speaking very cogently and fluently for me. What are some of the offerings you're doing and some of the participations? Like I've seen, like you said, through social media and stuff, that you were at Envision and you were saying you were at Corfu recently doing stuff. You're still mingling with circles and get-togethers. It's not like, yes, you're in the jungle doing your thing, but like clearly you do like expeditions, if you want to put it that way.
Mhm.
So yeah, kind of explain to us your modality and what people could expect from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, my spirit is just a nomad spirit, right? So, as much as I'm grounded here and I'm a student of this land that I am so privileged to live in at the moment, um, I'm always
Looking for
always
adventure.
have the desire to keep expanding. Second,
Looking for adventures. Good
yeah,
adventures.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just adventurous. That's what I love.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, most likely you will see me in, maybe facilitating and doing some workshops. Last year we did beautiful tour, me and Helios, my beloved, which, oh
We're
my
gonna
God,
get him on. He speaks English,
one day
right?
you're gonna interview him. I'm pretty sure about that.
Oh yeah, totes.
He's a
1000%.
treasure. He's a treasure. And so that was another manifestation, really manifesting everything I ever dreamed of and beyond. And I'm only 32. So I'm very curious to see where this year is going to lead me. I know that right now I'm going through a quantum leap, like another quantum leap. I already received some messages from the animal realms and some other ways. So I don't know exactly to tell you how this year is going to look like. I do know that good potential for Peru in the end of the year, good potential for being in Brazil with the Yawanawa tribe around September, good potential for November in the United States, and that's where I'm probably going to share some things. What else we had?
You're in the middle of
Yeah, July could
I mean,
also be.
you were saying that you had a retreat like last week with the ice bath and I think
Yes.
ayahuasca and stuff, and you've got one coming up. So you're kind of in the eye of the hurricane, so to speak.
Yeah. So
Are those
my
kinds of
retreat,
things on your website?
yeah, my website,
Yeah.
Talia, how do you say line?
Dash hyphen.
Yeah, dash. I
Yeah.
always forget. Talia-soul.com. Pretty easy to find. It have all the information on what's going on right now. Basically, I can say we did some beautiful retreats lately, and all of them had ayahuasca in them, although they're not centered into ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is supporting the retreat. It's not the opposite. We will have some stuff probably this year where they're all around ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is the main thing. But yeah, so far I have a retreat called Find Your Why that was really beautiful. That's the one with the ice bath.
Nice.
I had a medicine woman retreat for all the women that know that they carry the medicine that they are in the world and want to just dive more into their own medicine, to discover more of their own medicine, and to be able to feed themselves with that medicine, to be fed by other sisterhood, which is a medicine by itself, including ayahuasca ceremony that I was co-facilitating here with a beautiful dear sister. And then I have shamanism. That's the one that's coming next. Is the third round of shamanism. It's actually combining the shamanism with the
Right.
Zen.
Shamanism.
Z-E-N.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So we are combining the West and the East. We are combining this, coming back to our soul blueprint, coming back to our true nature, connecting with nature, with the elements, with the jungle, with the rivers, connecting with a lot of things that are living inside of us and outside of us equally, and getting into a state of deep presence. And what does it mean to really become the observer? What does it mean to really be in deep presence? What does it mean to truly be in surrender and letting go of, and connection with the divine, in a grounded way? So that's something that I really, really love, very passionate about. I'm co-creating it with a dear shaman. Dear shaman. That is a dear brother of mine, soul family. And we're going to have also ayahuasca there, and mushroom ceremony, and a few more temazcal, which is a sweat lodge. You're familiar with that one?
I've heard of sweat lodges. I've never participated in one.
Yeah, it's
They have
intense.
effects themselves. Yeah, it's like you can
Yeah,
trip
you get
just
into,
sweating, guys.
you come to
Apparently,
sweat. We're coming to sweat. We're coming to detox ourselves.
purge.
So that's also something beautiful we do over there. And then there is a beautiful one of my, like, when you work on something for a long time and now it's coming into fruition.
Yeah.
So that's the project that is called The Portal, which is an incredible, revolutionary, transformational center that I'm co-creating with a dear sister of mine, Alisa Kin, where we get to have a costume-made retreats. So for people that need something that is more specific, or let's say some people are not into groups, but they want something more one-on-one, something more focusing what they need. So we really make a lot of magic there, and what we already experienced there is pure magic in the most beautiful land overlooking the ocean of the Pacific coast. So that's something really exciting, and that's also written on my website for whoever feeling curious around that. So we receive people. It can also be for like short things or longer journeys. And yeah, it's more like fun and luxurious, and feeling like you go there and you feel nourished in any single way. And yeah, and also one of my favorite co-creations is with my beloved Helios, which I don't know if you caught that, but like Helios.
Oh, I was gonna say, I props. He's got to be proud of you, because, and I don't take this personally, but like sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, do you want to come on a podcast?" Not so much this, but like women have a way of like soft warning signal, like yellow taping. It's like, me and my boyfriend are going to go. Like that sometimes happens. You have mentioned Helios so profound often enough that I'm like, I get it. Like they are together and they're doing a whole lot together apparently. So props to you and him. I don't know him personally. I want to get him on the podcast at some point. Tell him like, we're gonna reach out to him at some point.
You will have your own time. You will have your own time. I'm going to speak too much. You can feel the frequency perhaps. Just this magical wizard, powerful being that I'm.
Well, it takes
I
two
was
to
in love
tango. You're
from
cool
the
as
first
fuck, I
sight, and
imagine.
every time I look at it again, I got even deeper in love. So
That's what's up.
full of wisdom.
It's what a blessing to be, enraptured with the person that you want to participate with. I mean, not everybody, some people settle, some people don't, we meet ourselves outside of ourselves where we are, is a weird way to put it. You're always kind of where you're at with your partner, and you seem fairly integrated, fucking woke, legit, funny, cool. Like, I imagine he's equally as powerful, interesting, and rad. So it's like, yeah, no shit. We'll get him on. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, what about him? Yeah.
I was wondering if you catch that he is Helios, which Helios in the Greek mythology is the god of the sun, and I'm Talia soul, which is the sun. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right?
Hyper resonance. Yes.
And it happened before we met. So yeah, the accuracy of the divine orchestration when you don't settle for anything less than heaven yes, like full body yes.
Mm.
That's how I roll. That's how
Yeah,
really I roll, and that's how I
I can
got into the
tell.
life that I'm living right now, which is fully abundant and prosper from my purpose. I don't
Mm.
settle for anything less than fuck yes. Really, that's how I roll, and spirit just show me more and more. It's like there is so much risk into it. There is so much like, oh my god, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but then like, phew, spirit is just revealing so much magic, so much miracles, so much energetical and high support that is just like blowing my mind every time again and again. So we are co-facilitating a beautiful retreat that already we shared it in few, also in Israel, and um, probably soon in Mexico. Oh, I didn't mention Mexico will come soon as well, but these stuff are not fully um, ready yet to share. But
Gotcha.
it's called Living Art,
Mm.
and that's a retreat where we tap into our most raw creator, our creator within, the God that we are, through art. And for me, the art, I could also say it in other words, the art of letting go.
Mm.
So we are letting go, and we are letting go, and we are letting go, and we find more and more and more us on the way. If it's through singing and painting and um, discovering our own light language and many things, just many things. And we do literal magic in there as well. So we're sharing a lot of codes, and yeah, just the frequency of heaven on earth, which is just fun and filling my heart to share with every person that comes my way. And some people come specially here. Yeah, it's a deep honor, and I feel so humbled to just being able to carry these offerings and medicine to help people to transform. And I also do one-on-ones. This is like my base. This is my one-on-ones. Is I always have these people that I'm working on a weekly base, and usually it's all overseas because usually they're
Mm.
not even in Costa Rica.
Right.
Um,
Thank God
and
for the
yeah,
internet.
transformational journey is it's sovereignty mentorship for just yeah for nobody to settle for less than what they came here truly to live.
Well, Talia, you are an exotic, thoughtful bird of paradise. You're a fascinating creature. I loved hearing your story. Raphael, is there anything you have to ask or offer before we start kind of winding the gears?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Oh, he's had a fun time. Shout out to Sam Barnes. I think that's how I figured you out. I think you guys are hanging out in the same circles and Envision people and all that. So I don't know. Maybe next year I'll be at Envision or sooner. I was Costa Rica's dope, and if people haven't been there, Arenal and La Fortuna was really cool. Where she is apparently very cool. It's a beautiful place. If you get a chance to go there, obviously do. So it doesn't have to be the last word of your life or anything, but if there's an epigram, if there's a kind of a statement of any advice that you just want to give people tuning in to the last minutes or hearing the whole thing, um, yeah, what would you advise people, or any kind of thoughts of wisdom, etc.? It doesn't have to be crazy, just anything off your heart or mind.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm. Just let your heart guide you. Surrender to your heart's desires. That's how you get to follow your dreams,
Hmm.
and see no limitations, no fears. There is nothing to be afraid of. You're so guided and protected and held more than you can ever understand when you're truly in listening to your soul within. And just bring yourself into presence in every present moment so you get to enjoy life fully. Get out of your comfort zone as often as possible and enjoy the ride.
Spoken like a true Team Rabbit Hole member. I knew you were Team Rabbit Hole. I mean, I figured. So thank you for giving us your time and energy. Like Raphael alluded to earlier, there's these little teas called Yogi Tea, and I keep their little quotes or whatever. And today's tea said, "It is the light in the lantern which shows you the path, not the lantern." So, like you're saying, the heart is the thing. Raph, I love that one. We get all trapped up on the different lanterns and which way they're pointing, and oh my gosh, the wattage of the bulb and all this shit. It's like, man, we are electric love beings, and if we could only remember our Mandelbrot Buddha natures or whatever the fuck's going on, we would jump this ship and change it or whatever's going on. But it's been a pleasure getting to know your story. And I do thank you. We finally got it. It's about 2 hours, perfect timing. Yeah, thanks for coordinating this with us and giving us your energy and time. I hope you have a blast wrapping up your ceremonies, and tell Helios to look out for an email soon or a friend request or whatever. I'll holler at him. Yeah, Raphael, last thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for joining, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you
Adios.
so much, brother. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for everybody who listens, sending love and blessings to you and all your relations. Much love.